Okay. All right, let's give me a demonstration for using the watercolors to do your cityscape drawings. So, okay, a couple of things just to kind of keep in mind of with the cityscape drawings. So, again, I'm going to go back to the examples of the finished works for your aerial perspective cityscape drawings. So I'll go to the ones that are colored. So now, in terms of coloring your final drawings, though, I'm actually not really be like super nitpicky on like what you want to do in terms of colors to incorporate and how you want to color it. So I'm gonna leave it pretty flexible in terms of like your color choices and how you want to color it. But I would kind of either stick with maybe maybe one, two, three, maybe four, like four at most colors. Okay, so I'm gonna limit you guys to just like three or four colors. Some of these only just use two of them. You could do like either like a warm scheme or a cool scheme. But I'm just gonna limit the colors that you can use. But actually, this one's pretty colorful as well. So, but I do recommend limiting the color schemes though, just so you don't go too crazy with the colors. But we're gonna use that, and then those are just some examples, and then I'm gonna kind of refer back to the color wheel when I kind of pick and choose like certain colors. Uh, okay, but I'm really not gonna be like nitpicky on the coloring just because I'm gonna be mostly just grading you guys on like drawing part. So coloring would just be like if you do it, you get the points. If you don't do it, then you don't receive the points. But I feel like with this type of a drawing though, I don't think the colors can make or break your drawings. And then other cases too, we have to kind of worry about the watercolors ruining the paper. But we have like really thick cardstock paper, so as long as you don't use too much water, should be fine. So you can really kind of go a little crazier with the colors, as opposed to using regular paper. Okay, so now I'm gonna give you like a half sheet of paper though. So this is just to kind of experiment and try different things with this paper. So do you want you guys to experiment with your colors or watercolors before you use them. You'll have that. You'll have like a cup of water, and then you'll have your watercolor paint set, and then you'll have like a brush to use for that. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you just like some general things with watercolors. So okay, so with the paper that I gave you though. Real simple though, just draw three squares. Okay, so you can just free draw the squares or you can use the rulers, it's up to you. I'm just gonna freehand it. So I want you to just kind of practice drawing like three different washes though with the watercolors using the watercolor paper. Just so you have some idea of how to use the watercolors, the consistency and then some other things to think about as well. Okay. So, okay, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna actually get some. I actually need to get one more thing. Hold on a second. Okay, also I'll give you like a paper towel as well. But you might not really need it though. Okay. So just draw three squares and really just experimenting with like color washes. So okay, so you're gonna open up your watercolor trace. Pretty simple. I'm sure some of you guys have probably used watercolors before. Just go over a few things. So, okay, now in order to get the watercolors to work, because obviously right now I'm not gonna be able to pick any of the pigment off. So, in order for watercolors to work, though, you have to dilute your brush with the water. Okay, so watercolors, you need water to make your colors. So, real simple though. In terms of watercolors though, I definitely would go with like your lighter colors first. So, obviously this doesn't really follow color wheel though, but obviously your lightest hue is going to be your yellow, and then if you look at the color wheel, like your lightest hue is the yellow, darker hues is going to be like the blue and the violets, And if we're to kind of grayscale this though, it's gonna go from like the yellow to light green to light yellow orange, and then to violet and blue would be like your darkest hue. So they're all still gray hues though, so it's not really like a black, but you kind of will like work in that kind of an order. So for like this example here, I'm gonna just practice a little bit with like just warm colors. So when I'm talking about warm colors, I'm talking like yellow, oranges, and reds. So you're gonna dilute your brush a little bit with the yellow here, and then you can just kind of color the middle part yellow. It's real simple. You just add colors to it. So if you want to get more of the pigment, then obviously add more water, add it in the here, and then you can just paint more. So what makes watercolors really interesting to use in terms of your color usages is it's got a very like transparent quality to like the colors. So you're not gonna get like a super opaque yellow unless you add more yellow, but it's really nice to like kind of blend out the colors. So now I'm gonna add a little bit of water on the orange. I'm kind of following this color wheel right here on the side, so I'm going yellow to orange to red. So these are called analogous colors, so I really like using analogous colors to kind of blend the colors together. So I can have like a yellow and then kind of blend in with like an orange on the edges, and then you can blend like a red on the very edges of the part. So if you ever need more water or colors, just add more water or colors. You don't have to worry too much about adding too much water to this paper. This paper can actually hold a lot of water just because it's more heavy, a heavier weight. It's built to hold the watercolor. So this is, you may have used like regular paper watercolors and it buckles the paper and everything. This one you can kind of go a little bit more crazier with this. So I'm gonna add like a yellow here. So you have like a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of like blend the colors if needed. Okay, and then I'm gonna go with like the red here. So get some water, down the brush, and we'll just do like waters on the edges. So really the trick is that you want to kind of blend and mix the colors together. So usually you would use like a palette to blend and mix things together. But you can actually do it directly with the watercolors and just dilute it with the water. So ideally, again, you wouldn't do this with like regular paper, but you can do this with like the watercolor paper really effectively. So again, this is like really special paper that we're using to be able to kind of like blend these colors together. All right, so. Okay. And if you want to, you can also dry out your brush. So if it's a little too wet, you can dry it up. And then if you want to, you can actually use this to kind of mix and move the colors. Okay, now the paper did buckle a little bit though, but when it dries though, it'll be completely fine. So, in order to make like, nice effective washes though, you'll kind of do like this kind of, blending, mixing, adding watercolors. And then once this dries out more though, you can add more colors to it to make it more vibrant. So if you feel like it's a little too washed out, you can add more colors. You can add like layers and layers of colors. So okay, but I want you to kind of practice different washes. If you want to try out some different techniques, there's a technique called like wet on wet, where if you just kind of use the water, just kind of place it in the square area you want to color in. You can do some like really fun things like this is like more like a tie-dye effect, so I'm gonna do this with the blue here. Actually I picked up violet, so you can just kind of touch it in there, dab it. I kind of do like this little spreading effect. So if you want to go with like more of like a tie-dye effect with your waters, just don't go too crazy with the water because it's really easy to do that. But this could be kind of like fun to do if that's something you're into, like certain patterns, textures in your work. I'm gonna mix it with this green here. Now this isn't really following the color wheel, but it's okay that we're just practicing it. So I just want to kind of see what happens when I do that. So I'll pick up more color. So I'm noticing the more water that I'm using to create that effect though, kind of blends in more. So, and then if you wanted to, you can try to move around a little bit. This one's like kind of one of those examples where like, you know, you kind of let the medium do its work for you. I'm not really a big fan of like this tie effect though, but okay, but you can just kind of experiment with different things with this paper. And then if you wanted to though, like this one I worked on a little bit more, you know, if you want to use like any empty space though, you can just kind of experiment with colors to, you know, see what kind of colors you blend in with. Okay, so once you've experimented with it though, and I'll give you guys points just for experimenting. You know, obviously you can just, you know, start working on your actual drawings. So ideally though, we just want to really just color the sky in. So, you know, if I were just to start on this though, yeah, I could probably just do like a, kind of like what I did before. I'm just doing like a yellow in the middle. I kind of want to do like more of like a warmer sunset type of a painting. Okay, so, you know, just do like a yellow in the middle here. I'm gonna kind of spread it out with like oranges on the edges. So, you know, I didn't notice a lot of you guys did like a lot of the buildings. So, you know, if you did more buildings though, you probably won't have that much of a sky to work with. But, you know, just take your time with it though. Especially like around these parts, you have to like kind of paint around the edges. And, you know, like I said before though, you might do one wash first. And then you might want to add like a second wash on top of it to get more vibrant colors. Okay, and then you can still mix this in with the water. So yeah, I'm mixing a little bit with the yellow to create the yellow orange. And I'm probably gonna add like a little bit of yellow towards the edges to mix that in. Okay, so since we've used like the Sharpie markers and the Sharpie pens, it shouldn't really mix in with your you know, watercolor paints that you're using. So the only thing it might mix in a little bit is with your graphite. So again, if you haven't really got a chance to what's it called, erase the pencil marks, you know, just make sure to do that. Okay, and then one thing I don't really want to see though is don't mix like with the blue with the yellow or you know, the green with the blue. If for some reason like you get like a little bit of blue in like here like this, okay, just make sure to, you know, clean up the palette though. So I would just get like the water though, you know, just dilute the yellow a little bit more. You know, just use the water. If your waters get dirty, you know, just keep in mind you can always change out your water. You know, dry out the brush if you need to. Pick up the pigment. Okay, but you know, try to keep your paint palettes as clean as you can. I know it's easy to really get into things and, you know, mix like the blue with the orange, orange with the green. But you know, if you mix a lot of the colors though, it's, you know, then you really won't have any colors to work with because everything's gonna be all like muddy and nasty. So just kind of keep that in mind as you guys are painting. Okay, but you can do like one layer of a wash. I may make like a second video to show like, you know, what it looks like if you like layer it a little bit more. But you know, like I said before though, I'm gonna let you guys just kind of, you know, paint it the way you want to paint it. All right.